Start stream, start stream. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. I think they're all live. Let's check the YouTube and see if it's working.
It just went live.
Hey everyone, the Mike Rosehart Show. So I'm live on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram. I can see all the screens. They're all at different times, so it's super trippy. But hopefully you guys can hear me loud and clear, and hopefully it's kind of working. All right. Bring your questions. We're talking about financial independence, retiring early, and real estate investing today. It's going to be a quick episode because I'm hungry. Just got back from Port Stanley, where we got 4 listings down there. And I just had my baby, my second baby, Ariel, my second daughter. So we had her on Friday. So that was like 4 days ago. So I've not been getting a lot of sleep. If it looks like I'm tired, it's because I am. Yeah, so that's awesome. Super excited about all the things going on in life. And yeah. Jump in the comments and say hi. Sorry we're a few minutes late. It was awesome. William can see and hear loud and clear, so looks like we're all good. Bring your questions in and we'll talk about it. So I just want to be short on this episode. So make sure that all of you guys don't let me go past 40 minutes. Hey, good to see you on. Don't let me go past 40 minutes. All of this is pre-recorded on my YouTube channel, but I'm now trying a triple stream. Just see if my internet can handle it, test it out. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool.
Thanks, Kyle.
Sorry, I can't be a part of the stream. I'll be here in spirit.
That's okay. No worries. Yeah, so, okay. How is the water, champ? Freezing cold. So, yeah, I didn't go in the water in Port today, but I was working in Port Stanley today. We got 4 listings we're preparing, and Kyle and I were trying to figure out how to do really good listing photos. So we got some really good wide angle shots where we would get in, we get the most complex shots where this kitchen was almost like a galley style kitchen, but we got the whole thing in and got all 5 appliances in and did a lot of really cool angles. Some $1 million beach views, and we got one that's the hillside, I'm gonna call them the Hillside Manor, and the other one that's like the $1 million view. So hopefully these 2 sell, and that'd be kind of cool to help them out and help them get them sold. I know they're looking to sell sooner rather than later, so that'll be fun. Trying on a different hat. You guys know that normally I'm a real estate investor, but I've been trying on the real estate agent hat now that we have a real estate agent team. So it's Candace, myself, and Justin have formed a real estate agent team, and we're working together, all of us, to sounds a little soft. Okay, let's see if I can adjust. I got a couple of dildo mics here. We'll see if that's any better if I adjust these over here and put them closer to my mouth. Okay, so financial independence, and that's the first thing I want to talk about because I've been straying from that a little bit as of late. I don't know why there. I think that it's tough. You get to this point where you went through all of this grind to get from where you were to where you are now. And I thought at this point I would just be chilling every day. And it's funny because I'm working harder now than I've ever worked before. And I feel like as an entrepreneur, once you get to a certain level of fire, a lot of us start businesses just because we were A-type personalities, and it just worked out that we went from, grinding all the time to then having the money that we don't need to grind anymore. And so most of us just start businesses or take on some sort of investing role that allows us to usually hire a property manager or a contractor, or often we outsource some aspect of the business and we start having employees and people who are working for us and counting on us. And then it becomes our job as entrepreneurs and folks who are, I guess this isn't truly like living the retired lifestyle, but it was definitely a version of FIRE that I'm living, or FI, where I now work and feel a duty to all the people who are in my core network. And so that's where the shackles still exist as an entrepreneur. And I had someone reach out to me recently, and I wanted to kind of address it on the Mike Rosehart Show, but like these invisible cuffs, right, that exist when you're an entrepreneur. And they were like, the person was very wealthy, and they reached out and said, hey, there's this whole FIRE movement. I love it. I want it. I have the money, but I can't do it because I have people that I have this person, 50 employees that were relying on them. And I was like, wow, that's an interesting perspective. And I kind of can see where they're coming from, where, I could never let my people go. I have to provide for them. And a lot of them rely on me for their families and all this kind of stuff. And there's a lot of people in my network, like investors that I'm trying to buy properties for and help them get to financial independence, and a ton of employees and things like that who are also looking for properties. And so it's interesting, I think, in a lot of ways, balancing all of that with your own personal happiness. And if you're a type A person like me, you get fulfillment and joy from working and producing value in society. But at the same time, if you're like me, you'll push yourself too hard. And this is what I do. I'll go like many days with not a lot of sleep, and then people ask me to do something, I'll say yes, and I'll overcommit. That's been a big weakness of mine. I just say yes, I can do that. Instead, I should say no, I can't do that. It's beyond the scope of what I can take on, and stay within my means. But it's been very interesting trying to go through that process with myself. And so that's kind of my sharing moment. I think you at the start of the Mike Rosehart Show, I do a bit of sharing. If you guys have any questions, you can shoot it down below. Otherwise, we could do a short episode. I'm totally down for that too, and I'll go eat and have some dinner. But anyway, yeah. Great post, man. Huge fan of yours for sure. Hey, thanks. Appreciate that. See a lot of people jumping on Instagram. Seems like a good of videos. It's been almost a year, but yeah. So Hugo, I've definitely been doing videos now for a little over a year, and we're just under 12,000 subs. So that's cool. I obviously wanted to have a little more success than I did, but still super impressed with how far we've come. To have 12,000 people that are following in this journey, that was way more than I had ever planned. Even my first post on my blog years and years ago, I never expected near as many views as I've been getting on some of my videos. So really, I'm thankful. Truly and honestly thankful for all of the support along the way. It's you guys that got me here, and it's you guys that continue to listen to what I have to say that makes it worth my time. Otherwise, it's really not worth the time, right, to share that if no one's watching and no one's listening. Other than, I think, if you're thinking of starting a channel, it might make sense for like documentation purposes. I like to go back, and look back and say, hey, where's my mind space at 2 years ago? And what was I thinking? And so that's sort of an interesting way, I think, of looking at your YouTube channel. Don't think of it for the money. It's definitely not worth it for the money. Don't think about it for the fame. Like, you're probably not going to get famous. It'll probably 99% chance it won't take off the way it has for like Graham Stephan, for instance, right? For most of us, like the average people, it just doesn't happen. All we can do is hope to have an impact on, a few people. And I think that the meaningful impacts, they carry more weight, in my opinion, than I'd rather have 10 people reach out and be like, you've changed my life, than have 10,000 people reach out and say, hey, that cool video. You know what I mean? Like, those meaningful impacts are more powerful, in my opinion. And small channels can have huge impacts. I know I'm having a huge impact here with my channel, and it just means a lot to, I don't know, it just feels good. I think it's meaningful in my life to have this. So I continue to have the YouTube channel. It's been tough. Obviously, last Saturday's video you guys saw on the main channel, obviously not our best work. We reused some Wise Wealth content, and it was bad audio, and we just had to put something out. I thought about literally taking my camera and my phone, going live and being like, hey, just had a baby 12 hours ago. Here's what's up in Mike Rosehart's life. 3 tips on like real estate investing or something. But we just decided to use some old content and put it up. So last Saturday's video, not that great, but the content's super on point. If you haven't, you've probably heard me say it before on the Wise Wealth Show or the Mike Rosehart Show. But the three pieces to making money in real estate, right? Talking about cash flow, forced value add, basically forced arbitrage, and then speculation, and using leverage to juice all 3 up and have a really insane return. But yeah, all good points. So is it difficult to invest in Canadian real estate as a foreigner? So Casper, not necessarily difficult in the like logistically doing it. It's not that hard. Like you could do it. You get a mortgage, you have to put 30% down or 35% down typically because you're an international. There are some setbacks, I think, from the geographical distance. Obviously, having to come all the way here to look at property, unless you can find someone trusted to go around and help you find a property and take care of that property for you, and then have a team of people that'll manage it and renovate it for you and all those things. And because you're so far away, it's tough. You'd have to be FaceTiming or at least Skyping at the sites. Doable, definitely, but more challenging, I think, to invest far away than it is to invest in your backyard. Yeah, good question. All good people jumping on here. Let's see. Back over to this one here. Mike, my question is on a portfolio loan. Do you know about these? I heard it mentioned on Bigger Pockets TV. Okay, so William, I think when you're talking about portfolio loans, you're talking about having a portfolio of real estate and borrowing against that portfolio at a certain loan to value. So it's like a blanket mortgage I've seen done on several properties at one time. I've seen a guy who had a portfolio of about $3 million get I think it was like $1.75 million loan on that is a blanket mortgage. So it's just like basically a mortgage that's set up on all the properties. And sometimes they throw second mortgages and they just pull all that equity together and help you pull it out. The loan to value is bad. Typically, though, they won't go 80% loan to value. So I found portfolio loans not great from a loan to value percentage. Also, the interest rate tends to not be amazing from what I've seen. And they're very restrictive in that if you want to go refinance or sell one of your properties, it's very difficult. You're all locked in. So I actually hate them. I have none, and I've never used one in any of my portfolio. I prefer to finance each property individually. That said, if you were talking about like stock portfolio loans, definitely something I'm very interested in. In the high net worth division, if you're a higher net worth individual, you can go to like the private Scotiabank or Bank of Montreal or CIBC or RBC if you're Canadian. You go into the high net worth division, you put $1 million in a stock portfolio. They insure the stock portfolio. They put it in a portfolio that's insured, so it can never go to zero. So you get the upside exposure of owning many different stocks. They'll build you a collection of stocks. You'll pay a fee for them to, a stockbroker to buy and sell the stock for you. It's not, do it yourself, but you get the expertise. They will go and buy and sell stock for you. They'll recommend good picks. They'll build you a portfolio. But the cool thing is this. This is the sweetener. You can take, I think it's like 60 or 70% of the value of the stock portfolio and borrow that out at like prime +1. So you could put $1 million up, instead of using it to buy real estate, put the $1 million up, borrow like 700,000 of it back, use that to buy real estate. So then you're buying real estate with none of your own money. You've got your $1 million in a stock portfolio. You've borrowed that money back. The stock portfolio is growing at say 7 or 8%. You're paying 4% on the debt. So you're making 3 or 4% already on the borrowed money. And then you take that borrowed money and you use it again as a down payment on a property to get another 25% return on your investment. So my thought is, if you get rich, you get to the ultra net worth division, and you can build a stock portfolio with this high net worth division people, and they'll basically approve you for taking out, a loan against your stock portfolio that is insured. It has to be a special portfolio that they build in the high net worth division. Then you can basically borrow your money back from your stock portfolio. So why wouldn't you have all your money in your stock portfolio, borrow it out of your stock against your stock portfolio, and then use that as down payment to buy real estate? Don't use your own money to buy real estate. Use money from the bank to buy the real estate. So that's zero down real estate investing. Again, a strategy that you have to use as a more advanced investor who has a good net worth, right? In the high net worth division, they're not going to do that with like a $50,000 portfolio or a $100,000 portfolio. Probably even less than $1 million. I doubt they would do anything with that. You have to be, worthwhile for the banks to look at that. A high net worth individual. So that's something to think about, and sort of something I'm excited about. If I don't know which one you were talking about, William, you have to qualify whether or not that was your plan with, portfolio loans. If you're talking about stock portfolio loans or like real estate portfolio loans. I definitely hate real estate portfolio loans unless there's certain situations where it does make sense. Do you even real estate? Do I even real estate? Is there a better question? Is there someone who does more real estate investing than I do right now? Probably. But I'm definitely up there in the top 10% of people buying property. I live and breathe it 15 hours a day. I do nothing else. Full-time real estate investor. I'm also an agent, but again, like being an agent doesn't make you an expert in real estate. I think you have to have been through not one flip, but like 50 flips again and again and again to become an expert. You have to have tried your hand in commercial and residential flips and duplex conversions, triplex conversions. I've done pretty much all of it. Even the land development, we're doing the big Severance small subdivision development that I'm doing with the 4 different $1 million college lots. We severed off 4 lots. So that was a development project. And don't even get me started on that, guys. I don't even want to talk about that right now because the county came in and there's a collapsed sewer pipe in the street and it's going to be years and years of delays. If you want to get into land development, right, building and develop, like basically severing land and then developing it, make sure you have deep, big pockets. Don't get into this without deep pockets. Like a guy who's got $1 million or $2 million, don't get into land development. Everyone wants to get into land development, thinks they get these big payouts. If you factor in carrying costs, you factor in time value of your money, return on investment as a land developer is pretty bad usually. You'll see this juicy double, right? They'll buy it for like $200,000, sell it for $500,000, but you don't think about their carrying costs and their development costs and all the survey fees and permits and holding costs for like 3-5 years, no cash flow, right? So there's a lot of times where development's a terrible play. I have no interest in development at this point. Once I get through the subdivision, I'm going to make a profit, but it's going to be not near as good as I could have made in cash flow flipping real estate. I don't like to flip property that doesn't cash flow. It's just not my preference. I like to have cash flow so I have no carrying costs. If the flip goes bad, I'm still making $1,000 a month every month. Doesn't matter. I'm targeting an investor. I'm not flipping it to like a home buyer. So I just It's just always been my style. And when I got away from that core strategy, like I analyzed all the strategies in real estate investing, and I think the strongest performing in my market, and I think in general, in a flat market, considering all market conditions, the best strategy is to flip to investors cash flowing properties. There is no better strategy that is the least recession proof, has the highest return on your investment, the least carrying cost. Just for a number of reasons, is the best play. Most people want to flip single family houses. They want to flip two like cottages. They want to flip houses that don't have tenants in them. And yes, it's easier, but it's not more profitable unless you're in like the hottest market ever, in which case you're just getting lucky speculating. So my thoughts on that. Okay. So Austin's got another question. How'd you pick up on designing your properties? Like adding extra rooms, breaking down walls to make the house look more aesthetic. Austin, I don't know. I've got a really good eye for design. I've just always had that. I've almost got a queer eye, but I'm a straight guy. I don't know. You know that show, like Queer Eye for the Straight Guy? I'm a straight guy, but I've got that eye. I have a really good taste for design. I just always have. It's one of those things where I can look at a space and I can see how it should be envisioned. I can see a wall should be here and it should not be here. The best way to go about, I think, doing it is to draw the floor plan. Like literally take measurements and draw the plan of the property. When I see an overhead view of a property, I can see opportunities for efficiency. You can look at it and say, okay, why is this wall the way that it is? And then you go into the space and you look at that and you say, how does this feel? Sightline is important. A lot of people like the boxed rooms. I like to do a lot of my rooms on corner angles. You guys, a lot of my properties, you see that I do. We do our walls like this. And so when I'm standing in a hallway, sometimes the wall's on a curve and the door is on the angle. And people want, like, why don't you box it in? Like, because when I'm standing there, I got a vantage point all the way to the kitchen, all the way throughout to the windows. So I'm looking for lines of sight, and I can lose, 5 square foot in the bedroom, but gain, for instance, the room feeling 30% bigger. And so there's cool things you can do in concepts of design. It's sort of been a thing that I've always just kind of gravitated towards. But when you're thinking about redesigning a space, Austin, for cash flow, the thing to think about is number of bedrooms to bathrooms ratio to kitchens ratio. So at a certain number of bedrooms, you need a second kitchen. You want to ideally 2 or 3 bedroom to bath ratio. So if you got a 5-bedroom unit, you want 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, full minimum, ideally more. There's definitely opportunity, I think, for different plans. There's not just one plan that always works. I look at a property and like maybe duplexing it makes the most sense. Lately, I've been looking at single family houses and converting them to student rentals with a lot of bedrooms, and it makes more sense to not have a second kitchen and put in a 5th bedroom. If you got a property that can be a 4-bed, like 2 bedroom and 2-bedroom duplex, it probably rents for more as a single family 5-bedroom in near Fanshawe or Western. If you do it to students, right, they value how many bedrooms are in the property. So oftentimes, if I have 2 living rooms, I'll toss in, make a really tiny study area and put a little TV there and then make another bedroom. So I'll kill most of the living room because they don't need a second living room. They've got one big living room already, put in a little study down there and then make another bedroom. Boom, now I got $500 more a month in rent. Same square footage, just getting a lot more rent per square foot. So it's about optimizing those spaces. And for instance, you might have a big walk-in closet. I might kill that walk-in closet and toss in a bathroom. So then now it's got an ensuite bathroom. Now the rent goes from, $495 for a bedroom to $700. I just made $200 a month by getting rid of a walk-in closet and using the space as a washroom now. Because now with the washroom, it's like, wow, this person gets an ensuite, they'll pay that bonus. And if it costs you $10,000 to put in a washroom and you get $200 more a month in rent, that's 2% rule on your money, right? It's a great use of capital. Not only that, not only can you get 2% rule on your property, adding that washroom is probably going to add 2 to 3 times in value to what it costs to put in. So big fan of putting in washrooms as well as bedrooms. So those have always been good uses of space and money for me. Okay. Thank you, William. Keep me on track in 10 more minutes. We're going to do 10 more minutes of power session, and then I'm going to go eat. So Van Bruza says, I'm 26 with 100K net worth by FIRE method. I have a job in Peterborough for the same pay that would limit my career. Should I take the job and leave downtown Toronto for a lower cost of living and better lifestyle? That's a tough one. I turned down high-paying jobs in Toronto area when I got out of Ivy because I wanted to stay in London and invest in real estate. I figured that, and not even only that, I adjusted for Toronto living cost to London living cost. It's about a 24% difference is what I found, You included rent, food costs are much higher in Toronto, even groceries are higher. I literally went to grocery stores and looked at the same items, and it was just more for everything in Toronto. You spend more time commuting. It's just you'll live like 5 years less. People live in major cities die typically a lot sooner of health issues because the smog levels are really high. If you live in like Mexico City and stuff like that, or China, it'll kill you really soon. So all the stress too. Like everyone works in Toronto till like 8 p.m. Right? Everyone's stressed out. But in like Peterborough or like London, at 5 o'clock, everyone's like, "Oh, I can go home to my family. It's 5 o'clock." You go to Vancouver, same thing. For a big city, it's a very small-minded mentality in Vancouver. I noticed people getting off work at like 4:30 and being like, "Oh, I'm gonna go home and like enjoy life." So it depends on the city. Toronto specifically has a very upbeat, hardworking mentality, and I think that kills you over a long time because we know cortisol levels associated with stress kill you and age you. So, from a lifestyle perspective, yeah, I mean, you'll probably live longer and be happier not being in Toronto, unless you have like a need to go to clubbing or like you have friends in the core and you just like to go bar hopping or whatever. That scene in Toronto is better, admittedly, but it's not my scene. It's never been my scene, so it's up to you. But I think that the choice to move between like Toronto and Peterborough in your specific situation is one that could make a lot of sense. You could take if you're making $75,000, $80,000 a year in Toronto, and you can go make, you just said, $60,000 in Peterborough. That's a similar cost of living. You'll be equally wealthy. Um, it's up to you at the end of the day. It depends on your goals, and there's a lot of things to think about through that. For me, I preferred to be in a smaller city. I always found that I could side hustle the difference. So I thought, well, hell, I'll take a job that I work less hours. And it depends if you work less hours. I don't know if in Toronto you work less hours than London, but it was the case for me. In the corporate world, like even like at KPMG, even at like my old employer Infotech, the people in Toronto worked harder than the people in London. Like they put in more hours. So if you're putting in more hours, that's hours you can't put into real estate or your side hustle or whatever it is you want to do. And so you're making an active choice to have less time. The dollars per hour are not necessarily better in Toronto, especially after the cost of living adjustments. So if you're worried about going down in salary, you're probably going to go up in overall total compensation if you think about using that time you would have used in Toronto to commute and to work those longer hours to instead make money in doing whatever it is you want to do. So maybe it's real estate investing or whatever that is. So great question. Glad you asked it. It's a good one. I'm going to pop over to Facebook, make sure there's no questions here. Like 10 people watching. And now over to Instagram's got a ton of questions and comments here. Let's see. How long did you have to keep your job to finance your properties? Or is there any other way to finance your properties? So it's a good question. I worked for three full years on working full time. So I was an analyst for a year, then I was promoted to senior analyst, and then I was a manager for a year. So 3 years out of school. Before that, I worked part-time and full-time jobs, from like 17 to 22. And then till I was 25, like 21, 25, I worked full-time. Now I did that because I did the 3-year Rosehart real estate snowball. It was a strategy where I was like, anyone can buy 10 properties in 3 years. And I proved myself that I could do it. So I bought 10 properties in 3 years using only my own money. I never borrowed private money. I saved my own down payment, refinanced it, burned it, and bought the next one. And of course, I was saving almost everything my wife and I were making. We were investing back in real estate, all the rental income, back to down payments. So we were saving really aggressively, right? Like we barely spent any on living. We were house hacking, so our living costs were near zero. And I think that if you apply that strategy, that really drastic, extreme strategy, you can get properties really quick and you can max out. I think 5 is really easy to max out. Scotiabank will go to 10 mortgages before they'll max out. At the end, I would think you should do like 3 or 4 properties at once. I'm a big fan of that. Like right before you quit your job, go get 4 properties under contract and do one with TD, one with BMO, one with Scotia, one with CIBC. Don't tell any of the banks that you're closing all these 4 properties. Just say, hey, I'm closing this property. Hey, I'm closing this property. They'll ask you to legally disclose your assets and your liabilities. And a property under contract is neither an asset nor a liability. So you don't have to disclose anything. It doesn't show up in your credit report until 30 days after it closes. So you have a 30-day window to close all 4 properties at one time. If you're at 6 properties, you could easily get to 10 and then get your financing all locked up and then quit your job and go at it. So that's what I always recommend before people quit their job. You should definitely look into getting your financing, getting deals under contract and then getting them approved for financing. It's hard to get multiple deals with one lender, so don't go with all deals to one lender. Do one deal with one lender, one deal with another lender, and do them all simultaneously, and no one will know you're closing on those deals at the same time. Get your mortgages before you quit. You asked how do you get mortgages without a job? It is harder. You can still do it. Like my mentees are doing it, and they're getting financing through B lenders and C lenders and that sort of thing. So definitely you can still get financing, but it is more challenging. You'll pay a higher interest rate for it. What you can just do is JV if you don't have a good job, or you want to quit your job, just JV with someone who can actually qualify for the mortgages, or there are many other options as well. You could, for instance, get a cosigner or a guarantor. If your parents could guarantor you, you don't necessarily need a job. It's just easier if you have a job, obviously, to get those mortgages. I think there are lots of ways to do it without that, but it makes life a little easier. That's the reason I didn't quit, because I didn't have parents who were willing to guarantor or cosign, and I didn't know anyone to JV with back when I was doing that before I had a network. So, I think that if you don't know anyone, go out and network. It's a great way to meet people who might want to join up with you. So, great question. Great questions. Hey, good to see all these people on. What did I just do here? Did I just flip the camera? Whoa. I don't know what I just did. Sorry, Instagram. I don't know how to fix that. Whoa. I just touched the screen and it flipped the screen. That's weird. Okay, cool. Back over to Facebook. I saw a question pop up, I think, over here. And then I'm going to go back to YouTube. I'm watching you guys. I'm watching all the chat logs at once. Okay, so Vlad asks, hey Vlad, how you doing? Hey Mike, based on your rental properties so far, how do you compare students versus families in terms of overall tenant experience? Good question. So there are differences, I think, specifically around turnover. Families will stay longer than tenants will. Student tenants will. Student tenants will often leave after like 1 year. Sometimes you get lucky and get them for all 3 years or 4 years that they're in school. Typically turnover is higher, more often, higher damages with turnover associated. And what we will see usually is with students, I'll have to chase them a bit more for the rent, I found. On the family side, if I got a good family in there, they will stay. They will care for the grass. They'll care for the snow. They'll take care of the property. If there's an issue, I won't have to worry about dispatching it. Students, they suck at taking care of problems. They'll call you and like send someone over. I don't know how to fix this light bulb. Like I don't know how to unscrew a light bulb, or like I don't want to cut the grass. So you do more work on the student side, definitely. Your return is definitely higher for that. In most properties, it varies in the area. Like sometimes a 3-bedroom as a student rental will rent for $1,500. And to a family, it might rent for $1,600. Sometimes the family rent is higher. But if you have a lot of bedrooms and bathrooms, the family route never makes sense. Like if your house is like a $400,000 or $500,000 or $600,000 house, it almost always makes sense to do the bedroom or the student route as opposed to the family route. The cost will be much, much higher long term if you chose a family, because you're going to lose out on all that extra rent. Like, for instance, a big house, like a $500,000 house, will rent for like $2,000 a month to a family. But to students, if I put a bunch of bedrooms in that big house, I might get $4,000 a month, double the rent from a family. So it just depends on the number of bedrooms in the property. But my overall experience has been a lot more work with students, but a lot higher return. And I think with families, it's a lot easier. They stay longer. But the downside with families is landlord-tenant board. I've never been to the landlord-tenant board, knock on wood, for students. They always leave willingly. I never have to serve them notices or go after them. Their parents almost always guarantee the lease, so I always get paid. I never have to go to the landlord-tenant board. There's no evictions. There's no problems. The only time I have to do that is when I buy a property with usually families in it and I have to evict them, or they aren't paying their rent, or all this stuff doesn't happen to students. They both have to pay their rent, or they have parents to fall back on. So you get your rent, you get paid, and you don't get that with families. So I prefer students over families 9 out of 10 times. But I also have a ton of families that we have in our units as well, and it just kind of makes sense. The sweet spot is the young professional who will stay a little bit longer. They're better than the student in a lot of ways, and you don't usually have to go to the landlord-tenant board. Again, students are the ones that you can really avoid landlord-tenant board with. I've had some professional tenants who are very good. They have great jobs and stuff, and they still want to go to the landlord-tenant board and fight over something stupid. So is there any limit on how many properties you can have before the bank will stop getting mortgages? No. I know someone who's got like 30 properties and they keep getting credit union mortgages, and they haven't had to worry about like going private. They're still getting like credit union A-lender financing. But Scotiabank caps at 10, but make exceptions for rich people. I know a guy who has like 15 mortgages. So they make exceptions if you're rich. If you're not rich and you're average, then they won't make as many exceptions. BMO and TD are hard 5 mortgages, but if you're rich or you're a really good client for them, they'll push a little more. So what you can do is get a certain number of mortgages with a number of doors with different banks. Don't go all to one bank, right? Like you might get a couple with TD, 6 or 7 with Scotia, and a couple more with like 2 with CIBC, and then go the rest with like Meridian Credit Union or Libro, and they'll keep going and give you small business loans at 4% against properties. So definitely not the end. People think it's the end. It's not. Do you have an umbrella policy? I don't currently. I have in the past had an umbrella policy on insurance. It definitely saves cost. An umbrella liability policy is great because you can share the coverage across all your properties. It's much cheaper. And you have better coverage on an individual property basis. Name of the second baby. So the baby's name is Ariel Rosehart. Congrats, 30 minutes. Have a good evening. Okay, so I got to get off. It's been 30 minutes. I got to have some dinner. I appreciate you guys all so much for watching. Let me see if I missed any questions really quick. Do you think a property in the Muskokas is a good investment for weekly rentals? I love the Muskokas. I think you're letting emotion take over. I love the Muskokas too. In the high season, yes. In the off season, it's very tough. It's tough to have good cash flow in the off season. So it depends is the answer. There are some properties I know of in the Muskokas that do cash flow, and they're in such great locations and they've been priced just right that you buy the right price and you end up with a property right on the water that is good for snowmobile season all the way through the winter. And if you have a good marketing strategy, you can get it rented all year round. As a normal rental, not great for cash flow. So just it depends. I'm not gonna say it's terrible, but it can be all right. I don't love the vacation property thing. It's not been my style. I have a cottage and we had mine's near Grand Bend, but we had some really bad issues with Airbnb and trying to manage things remotely. It wasn't worth the stress for me. My time was too valuable to be managing it. But if I had a local manager that I could trust, it'd be a different story. So thank you all so much for watching and all good questions. I'll make sure I didn't miss anything here on Facebook. Boom. Okay, so on all the different platforms, I've answered all the questions today. We're doing a short Mike Rosehart Show. Make sure you get your wise wealth on and improve your personal finance situation. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys next week, and I'll see you this Saturday in the comments. Every single Saturday, I work really hard to put out a video. So at noon, if you just jump on and give that video a like and let it play all the way through, and shoot in the comments if you had a question or concern, or you just wanted to say like, hey, watch the video. Thanks for it, Mike. Appreciate you putting in the hard work. I know you're not making much money from it, less than minimum wage. That'd be cool. Just jump in the comments and share. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate you all. And as you guys know, the secret to unlocking wealth through you is to spend less, earn more, and maximize the difference, the return on your investment. That's it. It's what you spend, what you earn, and what the return on your investment is. Those are the 3 levers you have to control your financial future. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a good Wednesday. See you guys all in the comments. Oop. I'm still live on YouTube. Let's end this.